Hey, thank you for your question. This is a really good question. I will say the answer is going to differ depending on what author you talk to. I have personally been very, very lucky in my cover process in that my publisher has always been really inclusive of me and has always asked what I want, and for the most part has executed almost exactly what I want on my covers. Like the Red Queen cover was almost entirely my brain. I said I want an upside down crown and nothing else on the cover, and they said, can we add blood? And I said, of course you can add blood. Who doesn't want that? And then the same thing happened with Realm Breaker, where I literally using clip art made the cover and then they executed. However, that is not going to be the case for every author. It's really going to be dependent on what your contracts say, on how inclusive your publisher decides to be of you, what they feel like the market wants, your agent, and it's just going to be different depending on where you are at in your career. Obviously, if you're someone with a few bestsellers under your belt, they're going to listen to you a little bit more. Okay, as requested, let's start a series about author advice and things I have learned over my career as a traditionally published author. Previously, as I said, don't interact with reviews. That is a great rule of thumb. If you are not tagged, don't interact. Another thing I would say is have someone who's sort of your designated touch grass person, who's not involved in publishing, social media, drama, whatever, who's not tapped into this, so that when you feel like you're a little in over your head or you can't see the forest for the trees and something crazy is going on, you can turn to them and say, here's what's going on in publishing. And they can be like, that's ridiculous. That's useless. That's stupid. And you can kind of recalibrate and reset, because a lot of the issues I have seen over the years have stemmed from people who don't have a touch grass person. This is a PSA for all aspiring authors or new authors, indie, traditional, whatever you are. Do not interact with reviews. Do not interact with critical reviews. Unless you are tagged in something, do not interact with it, okay? Unless you are invited in by the reviewer, even then, use your better judgment, okay? And I'm not saying oh, the New York Times gave you a great review and you can't repost that on your Instagram story. Of course you can. But no, you cannot fight with reviewers. No, you cannot respond to a review. Even if it tramples on your heart, do not respond. Refrain. And if you can't handle that, you can't handle reading reviews. This is an industry where there is no HR, there are no pamphlets. No one is telling us what the rules are before we become authors. So I'm telling you what I have learned and what I see happen every single year. Do not interact with reviews. Stay away from them if you can't handle them. Hi, thank you for your question. This answer is going to differ for a lot of different authors and a lot of different foreign rights deals, so I can't say that what I'm going to say is going to be the definitive experience, but I can only speak for what has happened to me. I'm traditionally published. My main book deal is with HarperCollins in the US, and I sold North American rights, which means I have a lot of freedom to sell into foreign markets. Some authors sell world English rights, which means they can't go to the UK and then sell themselves. Or they sell world rights entirely, which means that publishing your book and translating your book is all done through your main publishing house. For me, the advanced structures and the deal structures, it depends on the country. Larger countries will have, similar to the US, structures in that you have the advance, you get it on publication, you get money this way, this way, this way. Some of them are just, you get paid on signing. It really depends on the country and the size of the publishing market there. Great question. In traditional publishing, you, most likely, do not find the editor. Your agent submits you to editors at publishers. They identify who would be best suited towards your book and try and sell it to them. So you don't find the editor, your agent does. Hi, I am traditionally published author Victoria Aveyard. I'm going to give you a little sneak peek into the traditional publishing process. What I'm holding right here is something called a style sheet, and this is something I have received from my copy editors. Because I am in the middle of writing a series, this is super valuable to me because it has how I have described every single character in the series. Their eye color, what they're wearing, what they look like. It is so helpful because I just had this experience right now where I was like, how did I describe that person's eyes? It's in the style sheet. And it also has sort of the words that I've invented, the words that I'm using differently, so we are all on the same page when we are copy editing this book. So someone doesn't think, oh, she's using that word incorrectly. They can check and say, that's how that word is used in this series. So style sheet, super helpful. One of the big pluses to publishing traditionally is someone does this for you. Good morning. I know I look rough. Totally valid point. I understand. I get it. I get not wanting to invest in a series until it is finished. I would like to point out for a lot of authors that can be make or break for whether or not a series gets finished, because publishers look at sales and see if sales support publishing another book. So if you have a series you really, really love and an author you really love, I would recommend supporting them as the books come out, because those first week sales are so important to the longevity of an author's career and a series. Thank you guys so much for supporting me so much, especially early on in my career. I'm in a place currently where I wouldn't be up against a wall like that. God knows where I'm going to be a couple years down the road. So I want to be really aware of that and just let you guys know, like, if you can support an author, it's best to do it up front. In a perfect world, you would be absolutely right. And while my books have been more successful than I ever dreamed a book of mine could be, I am also a realist, and I know that realistically, I want to do this for the rest of my life. And to be able to do that, that means there's going to be ups and downs in my career. So it behooves me to be present on social media and to do everything I can to maintain my relevancy to you, the reader, and also sort of maintain my value to my publishers. I will say there are very, very, very few authors who can opt out of making content completely, at least in the traditional publishing fantasy YA-ish space. Those are people who are successful enough that they don't have to do this. I'm not at that level. There are so few people who are. So I just got to find the balance between this and this. Great question. Thanks for asking. I'm Dolly Parton. I work 9 to 5. I work Monday to Friday. Unless I'm on a really hard deadline, I protect my weekends. I protect my evenings. I find this helps me keep up my momentum and not burn out. I got my agent in a non-traditional way. I've posted videos about it, so I can't give direct advice in terms of my personal experience. I can tell you what I've heard other authors say, which is to make a list of the authors whose books that you feel like your book is alike to, or who have careers that you would like to emulate, and find out who their agents are. Then you have somewhat of a jumping off point. You start to get familiar with who's an agent, what agencies they work at, and the beauty of publishing and publishing agents is they all have websites, they all have places where they say whether they're looking for submissions, what they're looking for. All that information is available to you on the internet. So it's a little more straightforward than you might think it is. So make your list, figure out what agents you might be targeting, and figure out what they're looking for and see if you fall into that category.